In a country under real embargo. Cuba is a country where families spend years saving, or even borrow money, to mark the milestone of their daughters turning 15. A place just 1 hour of Wi-Fi can cost $2, forcing people to share files through USB drives instead of going online. And one of only 2 countries in the world where you can't officially buy Coca-Cola. Behind the beautiful beaches and vibrant culture are shocking stories that most tourists never discover. Let's dive into Havana, Cuba, is famous for its vibrant nightlife that attracts visitors from around the world. The city comes alive after dark with neon signs, music, and bustling crowds across both central districts and quieter neighborhoods. People offering companionship or wellness services such as massage, particularly in tourist-heavy areas like the city center and Old Town. In local slang, they are sometimes called generes, a term referring to those who form personal connections with tourists for financial gain. While some have stable jobs, others choose this lifestyle as a way to access greater comfort in a country where the average monthly salary is only $20 to $40. Professional massage services typically cost around $30 for an hour, more than most Cubans earn in a month, making this work attractive. As a result, many people turn to it as a supplemental or primary income source. Now, let's talk about something that might shock you about Cuban culture. Turning 15 marks a major milestone for girls, celebrated with the traditional quinceañera. This birthday symbolizes the transition from childhood to womanhood and is considered one of the most important events in family life. On this occasion, the young woman is dressed in an elaborate gown and carefully styled for professional photos, often taken at landmarks such as the Malecon or Old Havana's plazas. Some celebrations also include a horse-drawn carriage or classic American car, though practices vary by region. She is usually accompanied into the ceremony by an escort, often a cousin, close friend, or sometimes a boyfriend, while relatives and friends attend to celebrate. An entire service industry, including photographers, decorators, venues, restaurants, and entertainers, has grown around quinceañeras, reflecting their cultural importance. But the expense is immense. Even a modest event can represent years of income in a country where the average monthly salary is under $50. Many families begin saving from birth, work multiple jobs, or rely on remittances from relatives abroad. The social pressure to host a grand celebration is so strong that families who cannot afford one often feel embarrassed within their communities. Cuba is one of only 2 countries in the world, along with North Korea, where Coca-Cola is almost absent. The reason isn't a lack of demand but politics dating back decades. Coca-Cola opened its first Cuban bottling plant in 1906 and thrived for over 50 years. But in 1962, after Fidel Castro nationalized U.S. assets and Washington imposed a trade embargo, the company withdrew. From then on, the iconic red can became a symbol of capitalism and was treated with suspicion by authorities. Until 2015, selling or drinking Coca-Cola was unofficially considered risky, with vendors facing fines or shutdowns. There was never a formal written ban, but the association with America made it politically sensitive. For generations, Cubans relied on state-promoted alternatives, and many had never tasted Coke. Even today, it is not officially distributed. Instead, cans are smuggled from Mexico or Panama and sold discreetly in tourist shops at $2 to $3 each, more than local rum and a large share of a worker's daily wage. The scarcity of Coca-Cola has come to symbolize Cuba's isolation and how politics shape daily life. For many, the drink represents not just refreshment but a connection to the outside world long out of reach. Let me tell you about something that will make you appreciate your internet connection. Cuba's outdated internet system is one of the most frustrating aspects of daily life. Only about 25% of the population has access, and most do not have it at home, relying instead on public hotspots. Until 2018, internet use was almost non-existent for ordinary citizens when around 500 public Wi-Fi zones were finally established. Even now, home or mobile access is a luxury few can afford. The costs are staggering. Internet rates average $2 per hour, while the monthly salary is often just $7 to $30. Phones capable of connecting cost around $200 in state-run stores, 6 to 8 months of wages. As a result, many Cubans have resorted to sharing information through USB drives rather than using mobile data, which remains costly and limited. Only about 150,000 people out of 11 million can go online daily. Government restrictions, combined with the U.S. embargo, further complicate access. Popular apps like Skype or WhatsApp are blocked from Cuban Apple IDs, leaving people reliant on limited web-based services. This digital isolation affects education, business, and family connections abroad, creating a cycle where limited internet access hinders development, and poor development keeps internet access out of reach. In Cuba, eating beef is heavily restricted for ordinary citizens. The government controls cattle strictly, reserving beef for tourists, hotels, the elderly, or state institutions. As a result, beef has become a symbol of privilege, often linked to black market access or special connections. The policy is rooted in agriculture. Cattle are considered too valuable for milk and farm work to be raised for meat. Yet this creates a striking contrast. Tourists can order steak freely in hotels while locals risk jail for the same meal. Black market beef is available, but costs many times the average salary of just $20 to $40 a month, making even small portions a rare luxury. Beyond legality, beef has taken on a cultural weight. Many Cubans grow up without ever tasting it, and when they finally do through black market purchases or trips abroad, it becomes a powerful memory. Traditional recipes once centered on beef have been altered or abandoned, reshaping Cuban cuisine. Food scarcity also reinforces strict attitudes toward waste. With rationing still in place since 1962, families plan meals carefully and children are taught never to leave food uneaten, as every bit is precious. What do you think about this? Like and subscribe so you never miss the next unbelievable case. Cuban cigars have long symbolized luxury, power, and craftsmanship, but behind the glamour lies stark inequality. A high-quality Cuban cigar, such as a Cohiba, Monte Cristo, or Partagas, can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars, making it a product for the global elite. Yet the workers who create them rarely share in that wealth. Cigar making is a painstaking process involving over 500 steps, from selecting leaves to the final rolling. Skilled rollers dedicate decades to perfecting their craft, but despite producing cigars that sell for hundreds of dollars abroad, they often earn just $30 to $50 per month, far less than the value of their work. The best tobacco comes from Pinar del Rio, western Cuba, but even here, families face shortages of basic goods while producing world-famous cigars. Tourists visiting farms may roll a cigar themselves, but behind the experience are workers struggling with scarcity. Cohiba cigars, considered the finest globally, originated in the 1960s when Fidel Castro's bodyguard introduced him to a special blend. Castro later ordered production at the El Laguito factory in Havana, and for years Cohibas were reserved for diplomats before being sold internationally in 1982. Today, Habanos S.A., Cuba's exclusive cigar distributor, exports to over 150 countries. Each year, the Festival del Habano in Havana showcases these premium cigars, drawing enthusiasts from more than 70 countries. While visitors enjoy luxury tastings and auctions, Cuban citizens living nearby often lack necessities, highlighting the deep economic divide behind the world's most famous cigars. Would you believe that a small tattoo on your hand could make you look like a criminal in Cuba? In Cuba, tattoos still carry a heavy social stigma, especially among older generations. While in many countries tattoos are seen as art or self-expression, in Cuba they have long been associated with sailors, sex workers, and prisoners, the groups historically viewed with suspicion. This created a lasting prejudice that links tattoos with rebellion, indiscipline, or criminality. As a result, people with visible tattoos may face discrimination, particularly when applying for government jobs or customer-facing roles. Some families strongly disapprove, leading to conflict between younger Cubans seeking self-expression and older relatives holding traditional values. In recent years, however, tattoos have become more common in Havana and other big cities, embraced by artists, musicians, and independent creators as symbols of individuality. Yet outside urban centers, the stigma remains strong and tattoos can still draw mistrust or social exclusion. For visitors, tattoos are not illegal, but it's wise to cover them in formal settings, rural areas, or government buildings to avoid unnecessary complications. While tattoos are mainstream in much of the world, In Cuba, they continue to mark social boundaries and generational divides. A little known but defining feature of Cuban life is the ration card system, still in place more than 60 years after its introduction. The ration booklet, known locally as La Libreta de Abastecimiento, was established in March 1962, shortly after the U.S. embargo to guarantee access to basic goods. Every Cuban household receives this booklet, which allows them to buy subsidized essentials such as rice, beans, cooking oil, bread, sugar, and limited amounts of meat or milk from state-run stores. Quantities are strictly regulated per person and rarely last a full month. A typical monthly ration might include 5 pounds of rice, 1 pound of beans, half a pound of oil, and small amounts of other staples. Families must purchase the rest at much higher market prices. Foreigners are not issued ration cards and must buy food at supermarkets or dollar stores, creating a two-tier system. In times of shortage, such as in 2019, when sanctions and reduced imports hit hard, rations dropped so low that some Cubans were allowed only 1 chicken per person for an entire month at subsidized prices. The ration system is burdensome. People must shop at specific state stores tied to their address, present documentation, and wait in long lines. While La Libreta provides a safety net, it also represents the state's heavy control over daily consumption and serves as a constant reminder of economic hardship and dependence on government allocation. In December 2016, following Fidel Castro's death, the Cuban National Assembly passed a law reflecting his own wishes no public institutions, awards, or monuments would bear his name. Known as Law No. 123, it prohibits naming organizations, streets, squares, parks, or state entities after him, and bans the erection of statues or permanent memorials in his honor. Castro had repeatedly stated during his life that he did not want a personality cult, despite his image and quotations being omnipresent in Cuban society for decades. The law also forbids using his name for medals or honorary titles, reinforcing his wish to avoid official glorification. Exceptions exist for artistic and cultural works, literature, music, theater, or dance, where his name and image may be used creatively. Likewise, temporary displays of his likeness at political events remain permitted, though permanent tributes are banned. This unusual law highlights the Cuban government's awareness of the risks of personality cults in highly centralized systems. It also underscores Castro's desire to link Cuban socialism to ideas and institutions rather than individual worship. For decades, Cuba tightly controlled emigration and travel, creating one of the most regulated population movements in the modern world. Even today, Cubans abroad face bureaucratic hurdles and high fees to maintain documents and ties with their homeland. The scale of emigration in recent years has been staggering. Between 2021 and 2022, more than 270,000 Cubans, about 2.5% of the population, were encountered by U.S. authorities at the border, the largest wave of Cuban migration in modern history. This surge coincided with Cuba's worst economic crisis since the 1990s. Since November 2021, when Nicaragua lifted visa requirements for Cubans, many have used it as a gateway, flying there and then traveling north with the help of smuggling networks. The journey can cost up to $7,000 per person, a sum far beyond the official average salary of around $150 per month. Others risk their lives in the Caribbean, attempting the dangerous crossing in makeshift rafts. This mass exodus has drained Cuba of working-age professionals, worsening shortages in key sectors and fracturing families. Parents are separated from children, elderly relatives lose caregivers, and entire communities lose their most energetic members. For many Cubans, the cost of leaving is measured not only in money but in permanent loss and heartbreak. Would you take the risk of spending $7,000? Or even crossing the sea on a raft if it meant leaving Cuba behind? Let us know in the comments below. Can you imagine your entire vacation getting ruined just because you can't swipe your credit card? Cuba operates largely on cash, and for many visitors used to digital payments, this is a shock. U.S.-issued credit and debit cards cannot be used anywhere due to sanctions, and even international cards like Visa or MasterCard issued outside the U.S. are accepted only in a few government-run hotels or businesses. Most restaurants, shops, and services remain strictly cash only. ATMs in Havana and other cities are unreliable, often out of service, and frequently reject foreign cards. Tourists who rely on them risk being stranded without local currency. Cuba's currency system adds to the challenge. After the 2021 monetary reform, only the Cuban peso is in circulation, but the official exchange rate is far worse than the informal market rate. Tourists often lose significant value if they exchange money at banks or official offices. Since June 2021, Cuba has banned cash deposits of US dollars in banks, making their use more complicated. Visitors carrying USD must exchange it into pesos, typically at poor official rates, while euros, Canadian dollars, and pounds are preferred. Bringing more than $5,000 equivalent in undeclared cash can result in fines or confiscation. For this reason, most visitors carry a mix of euros or other foreign currencies and cash, as credit cards cannot be relied upon. This cash-only reality forces tourists to plan carefully, carry large amounts of currency, and accept the risks of theft or unfavorable exchanges, a major adjustment compared to most other destinations. For decades, Cubans lived under strict controls over both employment and travel, and many of these restrictions still exist in modified form today. In state-run and strategic sectors such as healthcare, education, and science, workers cannot simply resign or switch jobs without authorization from local labor offices. The government justifies this control as a way to prevent brain drain and protect vital services, but it leaves many people trapped in positions that do not match their skills or aspirations. Travel abroad has also been tightly regulated. Until 2013, all Cubans needed an exit permit to leave the island, even with a valid visa. That requirement has since been abolished, but the state continues to restrict travel for professionals in key sectors, and the costs of passports and permits remain prohibitive. Many families are still unable to reunite, even in emergencies. These barriers have driven thousands of Cubans to attempt dangerous escapes by sea. In 2022, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted more than 6,000 balseros making the perilous journey across the Florida Straits. Though Cuba has eased some restrictions, the right to change jobs or travel is still treated as a state-regulated privilege rather than a universal freedom. A striking contrast with most countries, where these rights are taken for granted. Cuba is facing its most severe economic crisis in decades, affecting nearly every aspect of daily life. The country imports around 70% of its food and fuel, leaving it dangerously dependent on foreign suppliers. Tourism and sugar, along the country's main sources of foreign currency, have been devastated. The pandemic collapsed tourism, while sugar harvests have fallen to their lowest levels in over a century, with production reaching barely half of historic averages. By 2024, Cuba had endured 5 consecutive years of crisis marked by falling output, chronic fuel shortages, and blackouts lasting hours or days. Pork, rice, and egg production have all plummeted, leaving markets empty and families struggling to feed themselves. Healthcare, once a point of pride, now suffers from severe shortages of basic supplies, forcing hospitals to postpone surgeries and dental care. Public transport and freight have been crippled by a lack of fuel and spare parts, with freight volumes less than half their 2019 level. Fuel scarcity has paralyzed the economy. Farmers cannot move crops, hospitals cannot power generators, and even tourists wait in hours-long lines for petrol. Frequent blackouts disrupt businesses, restaurants, and homes, making daily life precarious. This prolonged crisis reflects both internal weaknesses and external pressures such as U.S. sanctions, creating a perfect storm that leaves Cubans facing scarcity, hardship, and no clear path to recovery. In Cuba, visitors are often surprised by slow or indifferent service in restaurants and shops. This isn't a reflection of Cuban hospitality as a whole, but rather the result of systemic problems. In a state-controlled economy where wages remain about $20 to $30 per month regardless of performance, there is little incentive for workers to go beyond the minimum. Good service can be found, especially in paladares, private restaurants, and in hotels catering to international tourists, but these are exceptions rather than the rule. Most establishments face understaffing, poor working conditions, and chronic supply shortages, making it impossible to meet customer expectations. Economic hardships also weigh heavily. Many employees hold multiple jobs or side hustles just to feed their families, leaving them exhausted during official work hours. Frequent blackouts and food scarcity add to daily stress, making cheerful service less of a priority. The lack of competition in Cuba's controlled economy compounds the problem, as businesses rarely face pressure to improve. Training opportunities are also limited, and many service workers have never experienced international standards themselves. The result is a service culture shaped less by attitude than by survival in difficult conditions. Despite decades of official atheism under communism, Cubans maintain strong spiritual traditions blending Catholicism with African-based religions such as Santeria. These practices reflect resilience and the search for hope amid hardship. One of the most revered figures is Saint Lazarus, closely associated with the Orisha Babaluai, protector of the sick. His feast day, December 17th, draws thousands of pilgrims to the sanctuary of El Rincon near Havana. He is usually depicted in tattered clothes, leaning on crutches, and accompanied by dogs. Devotees bring offerings of candles, sweets, rum, or cigars, often seeking healing or protection. Cuban folklore includes other unique customs. Students sometimes write a teacher's name on paper and place it in the freezer before exams, hoping to freeze their difficult questions. On New Year's Eve, many Cubans walk the streets with suitcases to attract opportunities for travel abroad, a practice so common that entire neighborhoods join in the ritual. These traditions, whether rooted in Afro-Cuban religion, Catholic devotion, or popular folklore, show how Cubans maintain agency and hope in a society where they have limited control over daily life. Which of these Cuban traditions surprised you the most, freezing a teacher's name before exams, walking with suitcases on New Year's Eve, or making pilgrimages to St. Lazarus for healing? Let us know in the comments below. So we have explored the hidden aspects of life in Cuba together, revealing a complex reality that exists behind the postcard images of beautiful beaches and classic cars. These 15 dark secrets show us that life in Cuba involves navigating a system of restrictions, shortages, and controls that would be unimaginable in most other countries. If this video opened your eyes to aspects of Cuban life you never knew existed, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more revealing content about countries and cultures around the world. What surprised you most about these Cuban secrets? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know what other countries you'd like me to explore next. See you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.